Oh, that's why y'all couldn't hear me. Sorry about that. Y'all couldn't hear me because I wasn't in the damn stream. All right. Well, now we're here. Let's see. Okay, now we should be good. Sorry about that, everybody. Hopefully, everybody will now be able to hear me. And I just wanted to send those tweets and stuff out early. But shout out to Victor Del Maestro in the house. Thank you very much, Roy Martinez, the homie Endeavor, Cloud Gamer 201. We thank y'all so much for your support. We can't do this without y'all. Um, Look, man, it's been 11 days since our last Stadia live session, and it's been long overdue. We'll talk about why we took a little hiatus from doing this and all this other good stuff. Do me a favor, though. Hit that hunchback arrow below. Let everybody know that we are live. We are live and we are ready to go. Also, in addition to that, I want to give a special shout out. I want to give a special shout out to all of you that support this platform, whether you agree with, our take on stuff or not. It's not about our opinion, because our opinion isn't the basis of the show. Like, there are some channels, and it's okay. I'm not saying this to disparage any channels, but there are some channels to where the crux of their content is based upon them telling you how they feel about XYZ, you sitting there and absorbing their take on XYZ, right? And despite the fact that you guys might appreciate my enthusiasm, I think I get a lot of messages, and I get a lot of shout out to Charles in the house. Charles Aran, what's going on? I get a lot of people that comment back to me and say, "Hey, MM2K, I appreciate the fact that you are fighting to put everything out there, stuff that I may have not heard from anywhere else. We're glad that you're at least putting it out there. Now whether I take it X, Y, or Z, you know what I'm saying? That's up to me. Like, people like my good friend Victor, who's been supportive of the platform, whether we agree or not, man. Shout out to you. People like Victor, who can sit there and say, MM2K, I think you're wrong. I think you're wrong on this because of A, B, C, or D. But the thing about people like when I engage with people like Victor, and yes, Victor, I'm picking on you today. When I engage with people like Victor, Victor knows his stuff. Victor is a follower of facts. So despite where me and him may side differently, he pivots from a place of facts. And I may say, well, you know what? There might be this, that, and the other that you got to, categorize and think of differently or whatever. But it's a matter of thinking about it differently. I'm not trying to talk to somebody out in the ethos that still believes that Stadia has 400 milliseconds of lag, and all those crazy conversations that I'm going to be honest with you, I don't have the appetite for anymore. So shout out to people like Victor, who is doing this thing, who supports the platform, who disagrees with things from time to time, but does it from a place of information-based arguments and debate. You know what I'm saying? And Victor says, I play Stadia daily. Even if you didn't play Stadia daily, Vic, you know what I'm saying? Like, let's just say if it was your least popular platform. This platform is about this. This is why this platform was started. And I'm going to use this as a segue to, talking about Enthusiast Day and all that stuff. The reason why this platform was started is because I got Stadia in my hand. I already had a channel, mind you. I already had 700 followers, okay? So this channel wasn't started for me wanting to get money, because what I could have done is I could have just easily turned MM2K videos into a Stadia full platform and worked on it that way and got myself in the community that way. Yeah, I probably would have lost 100 people, but I would have gained 500 more. I would have been at 1,000 had I done it that way. And that wasn't the most purest and honest way to do it for the Stadia community, because the Stadia community was thirsting for Stadia related content. So I decided to start from scratch, start from square one, start from the same place that I started from in 2018 when the lowly MM2K had a channel, I mean not a channel, but had his podcast that he was running with the homie TRS called Scram Punks. You know what I'm saying? And we took that platform and created a minimum amount of buzz. And then that led me to getting into the broadband bullies, me being mentored there, me becoming a broadband bully, and then me, while being a broadband bully to this date, branching off and flourishing PNTS Network. So now we have our lineup of content with broadband bullies. And even when I'm not there, I'm able to contribute and work on things technically behind the scenes to contribute to the dream. But that's all made possible and all made due for the simple fact that you guys support me here. So it helps flourish everything. Now, it would have been easier for me to just stick to MM2K videos and do that from there. But no, I did that again because to give a clean and honest break for you guys and gals to have a source of Stadia news. Now, why did I think that was important? I thought that was important because I got Stadia in my hands. And when I got Stadia in my hands and I finally played it, what's up, Kessel? What's going on, good brother? When I finally played Stadia, I said to myself, wow, this isn't bad. I didn't expect this to be this good. I showed y'all last week my tweets where I had several tweets out there to where I thought that GFN and Shadow was going to perform better, and I was basing it off my experience with Project Stream. But then when I actually got the platform in my hands, I discovered that it was, that it was the best performing platform out there. And the mobility of it was so great to where, okay, as a streamer, it made it a lot easier for me to stream my games. I didn't have to deal with the codecs and bobecs and all the difficulties of dedicated device streaming. And then because of my particular lifestyle and user case, when I got to be mobile and go downstairs and sit with the wife, normally that meant game time is over. It added to a new chapter in my life to where I could actually sit down, because all my wife wants me to do is just sit there and give her a lending ear while she complains about her day at work. She that's all she wants me to do. She don't even pay attention to the TV. So now, instead of me, having to lug my laptop up and down the steps, I could just play from a dongle on my TV and get great fidelity from that. So Stadia, is great for a lot of people, and there's other people that it's great for different reasons. But that's why we started this platform. We didn't start this platform because we felt like that our take on Stadia would be the best. We just wanted to ensure that we were doing our part to fill in the gaps of information that was being told about the platform. Because from what we could see, the vast majority of the information being told about the platform, the information that was being told about the platform was wrong. So that's why this channel was created. It was created again to make sure that all things related to Stadia was out there on the table and it was accurate. And as enthusiasts of the platform, we would explain to you why we were enthusiasts of it. But at the center of all that, all the information would be present. That was the most important part, was all the information, not giving you my take, not giving you a taste of MM2K. The product of this platform is not me. The product of this platform is the truth. It's always been about the truth. It's the only reason why I even started on YouTube. The only reason why. The only reason why I started doing anything game related. For years, I thought that gaming news, I'm going to tell you what, I thought gaming news hit its apex with GMR magazine. That was the magazine that was hosted by Electronic Boutique. Most of you listening might say, who the hell is Electronic Boutique? Well, a couple decades ago, just about, there used to be two quote unquote GameStops. One was called Electronic Boutique. The other one was GameStop. I think it was a third one too, but I forget the name of that one. Nonetheless, those two entities pretty much ran gaming. Electronic Boutique was always the better store with the better deals and the, better, what's it called? But GameStop, just for whatever reason, was in more places. Shout out to the homie Gaming Advocate with the $5. He says, just realized it's almost March. Yes, March is right around the corner. Shout out to the homie Chase. Just realized it's almost March. Advocacy. Absolutely. February is flying fast, ain't it, brother? So GMR was the magazine that was with Electronic Boutique, and Game Informer was the magazine that was with GameStop. GMR, as far as I'm concerned, was the best video game magazine ever. Why did I feel that way? Because I used to pick up GMR, and they were tough on scores. They were tough on games. They set a precedent for expectation that you knew if a game got a good score from them, they kicked all the tires, they checked all the boxes, and the game was damn well good. And they weren't playing into fads, where Game Informer was playing into fads. So you had the worser store with, again, the magazine that I felt like wasn't on top of its game as much as GMR was, but it was the more popular entity. And why is that? Because something that I've cataloged now or phrased now has always been evident through time. That's the idiot herd. I hate to say it. I hate to put it like that. But people don't think holistically, and people don't react individually. The quickest and safest thing for the average consumer, what does everybody else think about this? Because I ain't got time to try this out. So I want to know what everybody else thinks. Oh, well, the majority of people are saying this. Ain't no kicking the tire. It's just majority of people are saying this. This is where I'm going to go. And because of that idiot herd mentality, the lesser store with the lesser magazine won the day. Electronic Boutique, when you got trade-ins, they had trade-in bonuses and all this stuff all the time. I was able to this is what I used to do. I was able to go shop at one store and that will rip you off and go trade it in at Electronic Boutique and get so much trading credit for it. From all the trading credit that I was able to get from Electronic Boutique, in 6 months' time, I got 2 OG Xboxes, 2 PlayStations, because me and my brother were roommates and we don't like sharing, and was able to buy parts because Electronic Boutique used to have like PC parts or coupons at the time. And and it used to just be a PC store, Electronic Boutique. And I was able to buy enough parts for me and my brother and his girlfriend at the time that built like this crazy ass rig. It was one of the best rigs out there that you could get for your money. All that in 6 months' time. But again, the lesser product won the day. Shout out to Gaming Advocate again. He said, EB Games, wow, talk about nostalgia. Since it's Monday, let's make it 10. Shout out to my brother again. Got to head out, but wanted to show some love. Have a great stream. Thank you, my friend, as always. And if you want to do what MM2K, I'm MM2K. If you want to do what my good brother Chase is doing, which is catching my eye because it's boom and you can't miss it. It's big and green on the screen. Just hit that super chat button below. I'll stop midstream and get into whatever question or comment it is that you have for me. Also, we got so much content. Now, last week we weren't able to do my first look, but we had, instead of having 3 pieces of Member content, we had like 4 or 5. And then there's a 6th one that I got to put out there too. We'll just double it up this week. So much member content. If you want to become a member, hit that join button below and look at what you get for each tier. Definitely a lot of stuff and some great perks. All right. Yeah, Happy Cloud Gaming says, I still can't believe it was Bethesda deal is to do the shutdown. Something is not making. Absolutely. Thank you, Happy Cloud Gaming. We're going to talk about that. We're going to brush on that Kotaku article. I'm going to get there soon. So in my honest opinion, Victor says, although closing SG&E made sense, it could make Stadia profitable. It was like eating your young. Hey, Vic, we're going to talk about that. Vic, you crazy. We're going to talk about it, though. That's a great point. I like that analogy. I like that a lot. You know, I'm big on analogies. I like that a lot. But Vic and Happy Cloud Gamer, y'all definitely put some good stuff out there. We're going to talk about it. But again, to catch my eye, what helped me caught those 2 comments was my brother that dropped the super chat. And again, because I be going on and on. I got 3 screens running and a stream deck and all this other stuff. So just bear with me. All right. So that's why this platform was started, was to expose not expose, but make sure the truth was paramount, because I was disappointed in my younger years to see GMR go under. That's about a good 15 years ago. And me and my brother and his girlfriend actually tried to buy it. It went on sale for $10,000. And we were trying to buy it, but we were like, what are we going to do with it? We had tried several other business stints, and they just fell apart. And that was another one. And if had we bought it, I don't even know what the hell we would have done with it. Right. Remember Tips and Tricks? Yep. GMR was the best. GMR was simply the best. And that ever since then, I knew that there was a standard, a high standard of journalism and information given that could be held if you just tried it, if you just gave it a try. And I always knew that there would be a fight. There would always be a fight versus the conventional norms and the truth. The conventional norms and the truth rarely intersect lanes. Hence why I even started the MM2K video channel in the first place. And then the Stadia Dosage was an extension of that. We felt like that the way gaming news was reported was not in a holistic fashion. Now you fast forward to Enthusiast Day. What do I mean by Enthusiast Day? Well, Stadia has been in the spotlight with some bad news recently, right? And I get it. I know. But Stadia has been in there a lot, and there are some things that are questionable that happen. I mean, first we got this lawsuit that came up, and then we got this the whole thing with SG&E that came up, and a lot of people jumped on this platform because they were hoping that their PlayStation or Xbox experience would immediately be heightened by the capabilities of Stadia, that Stadia would come in, swoop in, take that experience that you were getting with Xbox and PlayStation and rapidly grow it exponentially overnight. And I'm here to tell you that that was the wrong outlook. I never had that outlook. But here's why I never had that outlook. I never had that outlook because I've been testing cloud gaming for years. I've been testing it since 2018. I've been talking to people that were experts at the gamer level and understanding how long it would take to develop cloud gaming, how GFN in 2018 evolved from what we experienced with On Live, and why it was taking them years to do what they were doing, right? And it would take them years more to get to an apex where they are able to compete directly with an Xbox or a PlayStation. Here's what a lot of people, but see, a lot of people thought that it would be something that would happen in a few months. And when Stadia news or its progression or its marketing didn't equate to that belief, then people got upset. Here's the problem with all that, though. This is where, again, I was just having this discussion at the broadband bully level. I don't care how smart you are. I don't care how smart you are. I don't care how witty you are, clever you are at noticing different things or even recognizing patterns. There are just some things that you cannot replace with research or lineage, experience there or heavy research in that time period. There is going to be no entity, I don't care how beneficial or how easy adaptable cloud gaming can be in certain areas. No entity can overcome in 6 months, even a year, the rocks that Nintendo, Xbox, and PlayStation built. Let's take Stadia out the equation. Let's just say if it's just GFN and Amazon, I won't talk about Shadow either. Nothing against them, but let's just say because those are the conglomerates with money, mainly Amazon. There is not enough money in the world that gains the trust that can absorb the consumer base based off of Xbox and what PlayStation already built. They've already become norms in the psyche, the mind share of the average gamer. That takes years to build. You don't get that overnight. And what the mistake that people have made is that y'all didn't look at it from the PlayStation or the Xbox level. You looked at it just strictly from a device level. You looked at it and simply said, oh, cloud gaming is a better animal than daddy device gaming because of no downloads, this, that, or the other. There's more to a gaming platform than just its capabilities. It's its outreach, its ability to connect, its mind share. That stuff takes years to build up. You don't build it overnight. But see, here's what happens. And again, I hate being the old man shaking his fist at the window, but a lot of my young gaming brethren, y'all weren't there at the beginning with Atari, seeing how hard it was just for gaming to become mainstream. Gaming used to be something, oh, you little nerd with your pocket protector. They slapped the cartridge out your hand. Gaming was not mainstream like it is now. From seeing it to go to something that's underground, to watching it become something mainstream, then watching Microsoft come in the game and get these same lumps that Stadia is getting. Even though they had Halo, they were getting dogged everywhere else. And for them to, I want to say about, what was that, 7 years later after the OG Xbox, them realize, okay, we got to make a bold move. And what did they do? Shout out to my homie Cloud Proto. He said, how you doing this fine day? I'm babbling, man. I'm having a babble session. But for them to get to this point, I'm doing great though, my good friend. I'm glad everything's good with you. But in order for them to get to this point where they could even compete with PlayStation, and that's still not settled. That's still on shaky ground, and that's a fight that started 2 decades ago. In order for them to get to this place where they could even fathomably be spoken in the same vein as PlayStation or Nintendo, guess what Xbox had to do? Xbox had to release a console with a 60% failure rate and know that they were going to lose $6 billion in the process and just wipe it and just write it off. They had to have a means that severe, which was the fight for your living room, for them, they had to go $6 billion more on top of the, I think the 2 to 3 or maybe 4 billion they were in debt with the OG Xbox. They had to go $6 billion more in debt and release a console with a 60% failure rate just for the sake of being out there first. And it took them 7 years to get that desperate. So if you're expecting any of these cloud platforms overnight, even if they did everything right, to just be able to live up to those expectations, yes, I want my cloud experience to be up there right against Xbox and PlayStation. You're fooling yourselves. Shout out to the homie Ashes. He said, if someone knocked the cartridge out of my hand, they'd be in trouble. You're fooling yourselves if you thought that. I'm sorry. You got caught in this whimsical advertisement that honestly wasn't started by Stadia. If you go back to the tapes, the only thing that Stadia said at a competitive level was, we got 10.7 teraflops versus, which is bigger than what's it called, and I think that was a mistake to do it, to advertise. I've always said that, to advertise it in that way, because it gave the ambiance that you know what I'm saying, that you were looking to immediately eyeball PlayStation and Xbox. But while you're on stage saying this, Jack Buser is telling what the real strategy is, which is, this is something that we want to get in people's hands. We're going to take baby steps with, and we realize it's going to take you a few years for you to say, okay, this is something that I really can dig. But once you do dig it, you're going to love it, and you'll never let it go. That's the real takeaway from this. And I think despite Jack putting that out there, despite all the evidence pointing to, look, this is a marathon. This is going to be a long marathon. That people were still upset and said, no, and you're going to die. You're going to die. If you don't do something immediately, you're going to die. No, I hate to tell you this. None of these cloud platforms are going to be at a point to where they can compete financially and mind share versus any of the consoles for a while. It's going to take them some time. Now, in the cloud ranks, they definitely want to be either a first choice or second choice to a big swath of gamers, and that's what they're fighting for, yes. And in that vein, despite whatever issues Stadia may have for a week or so, they are in that fight. You got a cloud platform that all of the big hitter games developers, Activision, 2K, Square Enix, all the ones that said they're not coming to GFN, they're coming to Stadia. You got another, you also got something that has multiple options where you can buy your games a la carte, or you can get into a subscription model as long as it exists, where Amazon just currently has a subscription model. I see where they made a decent move and getting DLC. I don't think it's a bad thing as long as the DLC is still, as always, meaningful, meaning that the game either comes out of the subscription model some way or it never leaves the subscription model. When I say come out, it means you can purchase it and play it out of the subscription model. But see, there's perks with all these things. GFN is giving you, even though it's not giving you all of the AAA games day and date, because a lot of them aren't signing up for it, because of the business model needs to be more lucrative for the AAA developers to get into it. You're getting a lot of great games like Valheim and other games like that. Roku, you're getting great games. You get a lot of those games day and date. And if you are okay with 1080p ray tracing, I'm a little bit indifferent to it, but if you're okay with it, then that's fine. And if you're not suffering through the ghosting or whatever, if you're getting a great performance that a lot of people attest to, then there you go. But then if you want to step back and say, you know what? I want a serious subscription model where I only pay $5.99 and I get X amount of games. Then Luda's for you. But then if you say to yourself, well, you know what? I want to be able to buy Marvel a la carte. That's it. I'm a casual gamer. I buy 2 to 3 games a year. I may hunker down on those 2 to 3 games, but all this subscription model stuff, like the average gamer, doesn't appeal to me at all. Then that's where Stadia fits in. Shout out to my brother Sean L. He says, honest, without your channel and a free premiere YouTube promo, I wouldn't have tried Stadia. My experience showed that reporting from others was a cap. Thank you, Sean L. I appreciate that. And you're exactly why, Sean L., we do what we do. I am not the product here. Stadia isn't the product. The truth about Stadia is the product here. And despite any sour feelings that people may have, any late realizations that, hey, maybe I was putting more on the shoulders of this platform than what actually I should have been doing. Meaning, okay, I wanted this to be a platform that was just going to explode with a whole bunch of games out of the gate. Or I wanted this to be a platform that I would never have to go anywhere else to. You were putting unrealistic expectations on this thing. And why were you putting those realistic expectations? Because of the same thing that Sean L. just spoke to. Y'all listen to a lot of cap that came from the media. The media could not understand why Stadia was dropping at the end of a console generation unless they were going to do a Game Pass model better than Xbox. They couldn't understand, they couldn't fathom it. Why? Because they were disconnected from the needs of cloud gaming. They've been reporting on dedicated device gaming and solely stuck to Digital Foundry for so long that they couldn't think outside of their box. So they fed y'all a bunch of hogwash. Oh, yeah, Stadia, when it comes out the gate, it's going to do this and do that. And oh, Microsoft is in trouble, which that wasn't their intent. It was told, Jack Buster and Phil Harrison told you themselves in individual interviews. Now, shout out to my homies out at PSV&G, Donnie and them. They were of the original Stadia content, of Stadia content providers. They recognized early that Stadia wasn't for them because they had those expectations too. And when they realized that their expectations from Stadia wasn't matching up to what the product was offering, they said, you know what? I got to roll. And they did so appropriately. They didn't keep kicking the product. They didn't keep kicking the product while being overzealous about other products. They weren't plotting to death. They weren't prepping a eulogy for Stadia every 5 minutes. They said, look, we got our opinions about the platform. It just ain't for us. We got to roll. We got to bounce. It wasn't constant doom and gloom with, when facts provide, a path otherwise. No, it's definitively this. It's definitively that. It's over here at Stadia. That it's a wrap. There was none of that. They made a clean break because they realized that the platform wasn't for them. And I admire them for that. And time will tell. None of us have a crystal ball. None of us knows. We can give our opinions on this. We can look at evidence and facts and base off of where we pivot from based off those facts. But none of us knows. We don't know if Xbox or PlayStation is going to be here for 5 years. You can have a more comfortable feeling, but we don't know what's something catastrophic can happen there. We don't know. So I think because people are now coming to the realization that, hey, either the lofty ideas that I had for the platform that I put on the platform aren't coming to fruition as fast as I want them to, or I'm not sure if they're coming at all, or people have angst because they want to quote unquote game in peace. These are people that are always in the news, that are eyeing, instead of just playing the games, they're eyeing the news. Are you guys like Stadia yet? You guys in love with Stadia? Oh, y'all ain't in love with Stadia. Oh, man. Like, when the news dropped, I was about to play Immortals Phoenix Rising about SG&E. Now, had the news never dropped, let me ask y'all a question. Would Immortals Phoenix Rising play any differently? Like, when the SG&E news dropped, did I lose a level? Did the audio degrade? Did the visuals degrade? Did I lose pixels? Someone help me out here. I think the answer is no. So sometimes you just got it when there's a bunch of noise, when people are playing more into the noise than they are the actual product, you got to do what I did over the weekend, starting pretty much on Thursday, which is have a enthusiast day. I'm enthusiastic about this platform. People can talk about it all they want. Their speeches and their words don't morph what I got in my hands. Sometimes you just got to close out the noise. If you're too focused into the noise and you're too worried about arguing back and forth, then that's when that FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt starts to seep in. And what I did know is, despite the rhetoric that was out there, if I played the game that you see on the screen right now, Cyberpunk, it was going to play the exact same way that it was going to play before that announcement. Then when you take a breath from your enthusiast state, then you go back and you look at all of the evidence. And the evidence point, as far as I'm concerned, more so than not, that this was a reshuffling of resources. We had the Catherine Hsieh article that, yes, Input Magazine said, we did this interview beforehand, but going off my experience, I know that your product manager knows about that move. When Phil Harrison said, oh, we knew in that Q&A, Catherine Hsieh would have been one of the people that knew. Organically, your product speaker or your manager or your spokesperson, rather, is aligned with HR, PR, legal. They got to get all their ducks in a row. And that doesn't happen overnight. They don't say, okay, we got rid of so-and-so, so let's figure out our line of communication. No, they figure that out in advance. Okay. And if you look at that interview, she is laser focused on third-party development and integration of the features. There's no speak of SG&E. There's no speak of first party. They're talking about all third-party development. Then you connect that to the fact that also the same day that SG&E was let go, a YouTube job, shout out to Cloudy with a Chance of Games for reporting this, a YouTube job was posted. That YouTube job coincides with the bullet points and the talking points that Catherine Hsieh said in that same interview that was released the same day. And what Stadia was telling us that this was a reshuffling, a reallocation of assets or resources, rather. So if you put all that together, then you sprinkle on the fact that unlike Cyberpunk, the game that you see on your screen, they originally told you that Outcasters was coming later. They never used the word later with Cyberpunk. They always said the same year, which we induced as later. But they never used the word later. They always said the same year, which we absorbed as later. That was PR talk. That was PR speech. They knew how we would digest it. That's why they said it that way. But here, with Outriders, they specifically said later. For them to go from later this year to, oh, guess what? It's releasing day and date from some sources that I can trust that tell me that, yes, that was made possible from the reallocation of resources since the SG&E closure. I comfortably feel that we're seeing a reshuffling of assets, and we're hoping that we're seeing a refocus that is better in tune with what Stadia needs to do right now, which is get third-party AAA games on this experience ASAP. When you go and you poll different people, the number one problem that they say they have with Stadia is they got to get their catalog of AAA multi-plat games up. It is not exclusives. When I take it to the streets, when I talk to people on the streets, that's the number one thing that they tell me. They don't say, oh, where's the Stadia exclusives? They don't care about that. They want to see the games that they want to play on this new platform that makes playing so convenient for them. Now, if you want to argue against that, that's fine. But what we're saying here at Stadia Dosage is that we want the debate to be full and robust. And what we're asking our news outlets, we're asking them, please participate in making that debate full and robust. When you see articles like the Catherine Hassai article out there, put it out there. Say, hey, this is out here. This was an article that was put out here the same day that Stadia closed down SG&E. I do want to mention that they say that this happened beforehand. So you can take that with a grain of salt, but let's talk about it. That's what I'm asking that our cloud news outlets do, because that's what you're supposed to do. Not say from the get-go, well, there's doubt, so I don't know if we should even report this. There's doubt about everything. None of us are in the boardroom. Who's in the boardroom? You in the boardroom? Hey, Charles. Hey, Charles, are you in the boardroom? Charles ain't in the boardroom. Shout out to Shawnell, you in the boardroom? I ain't in the boardroom. Let me know what's going on in the boardroom. Who's in this boardroom? None of us are, so it's all questionable. Even the Kotaku article, very questionable. Now, do I doubt? I have corporate 500 experience. I think 99.9999% of it is true. I do. I'm going to be honest with you. Here's where I have my doubt. I have my doubt with the Bethesda thing. I find it peculiar that in the article, they give you specific details, clear and concise details on everything except for Bethesda. The whole Bethesda piece. Shout out to Happy Cloud Gaming when he said, it doesn't make sense to me. Why would you? Yes, it doesn't make sense because I feel that Kotaku left context out. If you're upset and you're savvy enough to ask Phil, well, what did you know? Because y'all sent out this email. Then when Phil said, well, the Bethesda decision led to us doing that. Let's just say if he did say that, you know somebody would have asked why. And when they asked why, he either would have answered or he would have said, I can't go into further detail. How is that admonished all of a sudden from the article? You see what I'm saying? So all of this is questionable. I can tell you when you're making reshuffles of information. I mean, not reshuffles of information. When you're making reshuffles of your stance, if there's a pending article that's out there that doesn't reflect what you're trying to do moving forward, you're gonna want to have that article redacted. And this spokesperson, again, or because of organically of where Stadia was going with SG&E, and she would have known about it. Because I wholeheartedly believe this article had to be within a few weeks because they're talking about what? They're talking about Hitman. So if I read the article right, I think it's after the Hitman release, right? Or it's around the Hitman release. And they knew well before Hitman came out what they were going to do, so she would have known. So she wouldn't have said what she said, knowing what was happening with SG&E, without taking those questions back to HR, legal, PR, whoever, and getting them vetted and saying, what are my talking points for this interview? Or or if she couldn't get the questions in advance, which I doubt that Google don't get questions in advance, they keep everything close to the vest. I doubt that she would have went into that interview knowing what she knew and stating a position that didn't reflect the way they were moving forward, even after the SG&E move. Notice how there are no talks about first party at all. Nothing about first party. That interview, for all intents and purposes, as far as I'm concerned, I'll double down and say that as far as I'm concerned, that interview was done with the closure of SG&E in mind. Shout out to Young Orbit. He says exclusives of what games your platform makes your he's saying makes your platform different from others. I get you, brother. I can't type none of the time. It's okay, Young Orbit. Young Orbit, here's the problem with that. That's a conversational piece for hardware. Why? Because you gotta buy hardware. You gotta drop $5, $4, $3, maybe even $200 on a piece of hardware. If I want to play Stadia on a computer that I have, how much do I have to pay for it? So you're trying to tell me that if I'm a big Madden gamer and the proposition of Madden, being able to play the full-fledged Madden now on my phone where I can't with any other platform. I can't do this with any other platform. Not Madden Mobile, full-fledged AAA Madden. I do this all the time. I just did it again yesterday. Me and my wife had to go food shopping. You're trying to tell me that the prospects of playing a full-fledged Madden ain't going to appeal to Madden gamers. So with a Madden gamer, all they got to do is they ain't got to buy into another console. They just simply merge their Google account with Stadia and buy Madden on Stadia. Guess what? It's an active user. Somebody on the platform. You don't need to have exclusives for that. Or you don't need to have exclusives out of the bat for that. If the technology and what the technology presents is not obtainable anywhere else, that's good enough to give your platform a huge enough lift. Because again, the price of entry is zero. Where with the console, I got to buy this piece. So why am I buying this? Why am I buying this hardware? Why am I buying this expensive hardware? That's where exclusives are needed from launch. And and your point is being proved right now. The Xbox and the PlayStation are in the same place they were last generation. Why? Because PlayStation was looked at as having the better exclusives. Now, Xbox is giving you more content. This is why I always rebut the content is king argument. And nothing against anybody, but whenever I look at a point of view, I go back and I retort back to the evidence. Xbox is giving you more content and more ways to play that content than ever before. They haven't won an NPD in 3 years. Quality and infrastructure is king. So you got to have quality titles. You got to have all the quality titles that I want and that I desire, and you got to have an infrastructure that is solid for me to play it on. That's why PlayStation and Nintendo were battling for first all the time. Now, yes, Nintendo has quality exclusives that come out of the wazoo all the time. That's what helps you buy their product. PlayStation has it started off with some quality launch lineup titles that help sell its system. And Demon Souls and Miles Morales. Yes, that's to sell a system. If I'm on YouTube one day and it says, hey, look, you want to play PGA Tour 2K21 on your phone on the go, wherever, any way you want to, unlike you can anywhere else, buy it now off of Stadia. That's a perk big enough for the platform to help sustain it early. But yes, what's going to propel it over the top is and make it a juggernaut or exclusive content. You don't need exclusive content to carve out a fathomable lane. Xbox proves that. In 2018, and I'm going to move on after I say this, in 2018, Young Orbit, PlayStation had its best year in 24 years. It had God of War and Spider-Man and everything in between. PlayStation could do no wrong. The best year it had in its 24 years was in 2018. How much did they make? They made $16 billion. Xbox, who within that entire year didn't win a single NPD and only had one game that topped the NPD charts, which was State of Decay 2. Guess how much they had? $10 billion. It was also a record-breaking year for Xbox. Now, what was behind that success? Having all of the third-party games, having Fortnite DLC, having Call of Duty. When you have all of those games, that guarantees you a level of success that will keep you in the game. And that's what Stadia has to do right now. They got to get those games. Once they get those games, then they have a fathomable fight. If they don't get those games, then yes, they better get some exclusive content that can replace not having those games. That's where Nintendo is winning. Nintendo can't always get all of those games. So Nintendo has exclusive content that fills in the gaps and some. But for even an Xbox, who comes in last place, but they're still bringing in $10 billion. They're bringing in $10 billion off the strength of the fact that they have all the multiplats available. That gives you a fighting start. So it's just a matter of Stadia working as hard as they can to get those games. Now, do they got to get those games this year? No. I think that what Stadia has to do is by 2023, the overwhelming majority of the big ticket games have to be there. I think the only game that may not be there is Fortnite. Fortnite's play. I've already talked about Tim Swindle Friday. We talked about him. We talked about all of his greedy practices and why he had y'all fooled, and why I went off on that tangent on Friday, because again, we are stewards of the truth here. And it gets frustrating when we're trying to put the truth out there. But again, the idiot herd is out there. The idiot herd is just bigger than what we are. So sometimes it can get frustrating. But as I've been trying to tell y'all, Tim Sweeney is no steward of the little man. There were court documents and court proceedings that show that the only reason why he's fighting this fight is because he wants Epic Game Store to be on the Android and iOS stores without him having to give anything to Android or iOS for the security, for being on the servers, any of that stuff. All that was revealed. That whole free Fortnite hashtag is a fraud. Why? Because the judge even said, hey, look, why don't we do this, Epic and Tim Sweeney? Because you're not getting money from this anyway. How about we or allow Fortnite to be sold on iOS again, and until we can figure out the percentages, the thing that you're on Twitter arguing about, until we can figure out the percentages, how about we put the money in a trust? And once everybody can agree on the percentages, then Apple will get their percentage and you'll get the rest. How about that? How about we do that so it's fair for everybody, and we open up Fortnite to everybody once again on iOS, because that's what you're arguing for on Twitter, right? Guess who said yes to that? The greedy conglomerate Apple said yes. They said yes. Well, let's do that. That's fine. Even though that means that we're going to be allowing Fortnite to rest on our infrastructure, rest on our security. We don't get a dime for it yet until all this gets settled, and things could be left in the arbitration for years. Trust me, I know personally. We'll go for it. Guess who said no? Take a guess who said no. Tim Sweeney and Epic said no. So because they said no, what does that say about all the stuff that Tim Sweeney was saying? Is he really for the little guy? Remember that tweet when Tim Sweeney said it's only a matter of time before Google blocks Xcloud and Apple blocks Stadia and all this stuff that was supposed to happen at the end of 2020. None of it happened. Why? Because people were following the idiot herd and they weren't doing their due diligence. And now we're seeing remnants of that being echoed here in the Stadia community. So my plea is, regardless of what you like what you like. Stadia can be at the bottom or not even be on the list. But put everything out on the table. Let us make our own decisions about the debate. That's what you're supposed to do when you're reporting news. And don't try to piggyback off of a YouTuber like myself saying, hey, look, I didn't jump on this because of XYZ. That's fine. YouTubers caveat what they're going to deal with anyway, because they're not taking on the responsibility of a news publication. People that want to take on the responsibility of news publications, you have a different responsibility. You're supposed to report everything. Then you can follow up with your opinions. Shout out to Marine669, disabled gamer. Play what you want. Facts. Fortnite might be getting Peter Griffin. I don't know. But you see what I'm saying? So we just got to get better at being across the board with this stuff and let gamers make the decision. That's what I loved about this community. And I get it. There are a swath of gamers out there that are mad at Stadia because they wanted something else and they're not getting what they want. Fine. But if you're saying that you left the community or you're breaking from the community, then do what Donnie from PSVG did. They did a clean break and they went on. It's like you guys say you want to leave, but you're afraid of what's outside. Don't be afraid. Have confidence in your decision. If you feel like Stadia is failing you, then it's failing you. They made money without listening to you. What makes you think that they're going to start listening to you all of a sudden? And if they need to listen to you, if enough people leave, they'll listen to you. And I'm not saying don't bring up your ill wills. I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is that if your mind is made up, if you're soured on the experience, there's really no other place to go but somewhere else. It's not going to be what if your expectation is for Stadia to, in the next few months or by the end of the year, be in a place where it's competing against Xbox and PlayStation, you're going to be disappointed. That's not where they're headed. That is not their goal. And everything that they spoke of to the contrary is opposite of that. So stop playing with your emotions and make the clean break. Don't mean tweet other Stadia people for doing slight jokes and sit on this high horse and, oh, this is why I left the Stadia community. Stop trying to demagogue the community. If you're gone, you're gone. Sayonara. We loved you while you were here. I find it funny that people are on that high horse before, but when there was that same talk, I can go through tweets for decades and decades, finding where they were exercising the same thing, but now they're above it. Oh, I hate when you do this and I hate when you do that. Meanwhile, you were in the thicket of it. You're disappointed, you're jaded, and you're sour, and that's fine. And a lot of people are jaded and sour because they feel like that they're mad at the leadership. And I get it to an extent. I get some people, though, feel like that Stadia is this dirty, grimy company and Phil Harrison is this dirty, grimy guy. I don't know Phil Harrison personally. Maybe he is. Hold on one second. But I can tell you this. If he is, it ain't based off of the stuff that was reported in Kotaku. The biggest issue with Phil Harrison is he speaks too matter of fact. I think he messed up professionally in that Q&A, and I'll explain in a second. But I don't think that Phil Harrison... See, okay, let me go back a little bit. I know a lot of people are upset that Stadia management sent out an email saying you're doing good before they let them go. I'm here to let you know. This is what I do know. And I ain't got to be in the boardroom for this. This is what I do know. This is Fortune 500 all over the world. And just so you guys know my lineage, that I'm not pulling this out of my ass, I'm going to let you know. I worked 25 plus years for a Fortune 500 company. Number one in our industry. We are number one. We've been number one for over a decade in our industry. I've testified on behalf of this company. Multi-million-dollar lawsuits, nuisance payments, and let me not talk too much. All types of crazy stuff. Information on me is public with this company if you knew who I was. Right? Dealing with important entities, government. When I say important, I mean from a business standpoint, like government agencies, famous people. I didn't do it on a regular basis, but I've had my conversations with famous people. So the people that would have you running the Instagram and, oh my God, oh, be all over the gram and Snapchat or whatever, that was just a Tuesday for me. I've had arguments with these people's lawyers. Look at your screen, sir. You see who I'm calling to represent? And I would respond to them because the clients that we represented on their behalf, they used to hate me. They used to say, oh, that guy is so damn smug. I hate him. But they knew that there was no getting a way around what me and my team were doing because we were effective. So they would say, look on the screen. Do you see who I'm calling to represent? And I'd be like, thank you very much for making sure that my literary skills are intact, but my answer is still no. You're not getting what you want. Call the client and see if they're willing to sign off on it, because you're not getting me to do it, puppy. So I'm not making this stuff up. I've been in scenarios like SG&E time and time again, where when we sat down with our legal, our HR departments, board members, PR, people in some cases, depending upon how deep the situation was, you are told to act business as usual. Meaning, if that email was sent out on a regular basis, or if it was time for it to be sent out, let's just say if there was a regular post check that was happening every 2 weeks, and it was just time for that, and they sent that, you guys are making great progress, go team, go, to try to keep morale up. or something where that type of email was scheduled before the decision was finalized, if that was set out there, set in stone, and there were people that knew that that email was coming out or some type of accolades of that fashion was scheduled around that period, because they're scheduled. It's not all organic. Oh, I feel like sending a kudos to the team. It don't happen like that. I'm trying to connect y'all to the Fortune 500 world. It don't happen like that. Everything goes through so much red tape and goes through so much bureaucracy. There's so much risk. There's so much inherent risk, reputational risk, that everything got to go through checks and balances. And as crazy as it may sound, I'm going to send the team a great email. You did a great job. No. Goes through something of that nature, of that stature, goes through checks and balances. So we don't know if it was timed or what. And if somebody that was being affected by that closure of SG&E knew that that email was coming out, you can't just stop that email, because the person is going to say, hold on. Or bi-weekly appraisal email or our status check. You didn't send it. What's going on now? What's going on? Now, what I also can tell you, and I can tell you now, this is what I can, because it was already leaked out. I had already heard some grumblings that there was a belief that Stadia was going to make some moves based off of Bethesda's purchase. That's sending ripple tides through the community. Now, the question was, which nobody is sure of, is what type of ripple tides did it send? Some people felt that the ripples would be Stadia would give up. Some people felt like that those ripples would be Stadia would realize that they need to double down on them making purchases like Bethesda. But nobody knows 100%. So if me, through the connections that I have, get those rumblings and grumblings sitting in my attic waiting to pick up my wife, guess who else probably got wind of that? Some of the people at SG&E. So the pressure would have been double on Stadia and Google to keep up appearances. Now, I'm not excusing the act. I'm just letting you know that it is the responsibility of the manager and who are all involved in that announcement, A, not to say nothing, and B, to keep up appearances. So what I need you to do is, if you think that this was solely based off of Phil, the decision to do that, I need you to hold an AMA on Reddit and ask anonymously for Fortune 500 people to tell you that, yeah, this is what they do in that camp. And after your jaws drop, because every single one of them would have told you yes, then you come back here and we could have a fruitful discussion. But if you're misled to believe that the decision to send out that email was based off of Phil Harrison, you are totally disconnected from how things work, not only in gaming, but in the corporate world. And I immediately urge you, and I'm not trying to say this to be a smartass, we're just getting to the root of the problem, because we all do each other a better service when we're educated and we know where the root of a problem lies when we are fighting back. I seriously urge everybody to pick up 2 books, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, to understand business in general, and then pick up Blood, Sweat, and Pixels from Jason Schreier. Jason Schreier's book will show you how more egregious things that was not necessarily common with the Fortune 500 world happened with Microsoft in its golden era with the 360. All those great games that you love from 360, that wasn't an easy, we're signing this deal and hey, high five everyone, yay. It didn't happen like that. There was a lot of cutthroat decisions by my homie Peter Moore and others that were made to make that happen. actions that would make what happened at SG&E look like a baptism. and I just hate to be honest with you. Since MM2K sold out, y'all, laugh out loud. I'm just saying, I've had to do it myself. Knicks me go hard. Now, here's where Phil Harrison messed up, and I don't want to take too much more time into this because I want to go into the other news. We got some big other news. Here's where Phil Harrison messed up. And I don't know if there could be repercussions for it, but it's not where y'all think it's going to be. I don't think he handled that Q&A the right way. I don't think he handled it the right way. Here's why. This is going to sound dirty and filthy, but I'm glad to have these conversations because it helps, again, like my brother Nick said, it helps give you insight to the Fortune 500 world and how a lot of these business decisions are made. There were two questions that he effed up on from a business standpoint. And from a PR standpoint, and where we would be talking about Outcasters and these 9 games coming to Stadia, all these really good games, we would be having two totally different discussions if he would have handled these two questions differently. This is where he messed up. And there might be more. Like, to be honest with you, the article that Kotaku did was a hit job. Its purpose was to malign any good news that Stadia would get that week. There's a reason, and they held on to that information. They held on to that. There's a reason why they held on to that article. Instead of dropping all that information together, they held on to it for a reason. And they also falsely said in the article, they talk about Phil Harrison's legacy. Like his legacy was failing the PlayStation 3 launch, failing the Xbox One launch, and then now failing Stadia. That's false. Phil Harrison was one of the original 40 people at PlayStation helping to launch the PlayStation. Phil Harrison also was one of the people at the PlayStation 3 launch who was telling the Japanese wing of PlayStation who made the bad decisions with the PlayStation 3 not to sleep on the 360. But the Japanese wing couldn't understand why Phil and the European wing or the Western wing was saying that, because Xbox did nothing in Japan. And they still thought that Japan, whatever was popular in Japan, would rule who was popular in the world. They didn't foresee the growth and the maturity and the springing of the Western development phase. And then when it came to Xbox One, Phil Harrison just went on stage to make his speech at an E3. He wasn't part of that launch. He was part of European studios. It had nothing to do with the launch. So that was just a convenient motif that was out there for the news people. I believed it too until I heard podcast Unfiltered. I think it's episode 46. Listen to that one with Phil Harrison. Get educated. Don't be tethered to the idiot. Be untethered to the idiot herd as much as possible. So, yes. Where he messed up was when it came to talking about Bethesda, he should have never mentioned Bethesda. When they asked what led to this decision, I would have said, you know what, many factors led into this decision. It wasn't just one, because from what I'm understanding from my sources, it was multiple factors. I almost said something I shouldn't have said. No, I'm not going to say it. Well, no. It's common knowledge now. And according to my sources, it played a big factor in it. The game that you see on the screen right now, Cyberpunk 2077, like from what I understand, they're being totally honest when they said the final deciding point was what they saw with Cyberpunk 2077. That sent ripples through the company, and they said, instead of trying to do this loftier stuff for the long term, we need to take advantage of things like Cyberpunk 2077. Like we're getting killed in various areas, particularly with our cloud gaming. Like instead of writing this off, this whole expenditure with Stadia, instead of writing it off, how about we do start licensing this a little bit more, getting more people on, whether they're coming on Stadia or we're licensing the tech, whatever it is, to bring up revenue. We got to do something. We got to do something. And we got this tech that everybody marvels over, and we're not utilizing it right now just because we want to see some apex of it 4 or 5 years from now. That's not going to fly. Not under the current conditions that we're dealing with COVID, and the fact that while everybody else is having fantastic years, we're not so much having fantastic years. We got lawsuits all over the place, Australia issues, and this lawsuit with the U.S. federal government. Like, we're going to have to change plans here a little bit. Doesn't mean the end of Stadia retail. It just means that it looks different. And it's more focused on the now. From my sources, that's what I gather. So if I'm Phil Harrison, I would have said, you know what? I honestly can't tell you that there was one specific thing, but there was a multitude of things. And he probably did say that, but I wouldn't have named them. Even though it's a Q&A and you're trying to do a heartfelt goodbye, there's just some things you can't answer. And I wouldn't have named them. Well, what entity? And he probably said, well, you know, Microsoft buying Bethesda, whatever. And Kotaku just took that and ran with it. I find it eerily questionable that there's not a lot of context around why did the Microsoft and Bethesda purchase cater to or contribute to that decision. There's some reason why that whole part of that is left out. So that's why I said don't fall for the okie doke. But I wouldn't have named them. So that's where he messed up business thing number one. Business thing number two where he messed up is when they said, when did you know? I would have left that a little bit murky just for the sake of the business. And some people will say, why leave it murky? Why MM2K? Because if you tell them certain things, it doesn't change anything. The end result is still the end result. And by leaving it murky, you avoid what we've been going through for the last 2 weeks. Like everybody's been saying, if you've been let go, it's not a good feeling, even if you get compensated. It's not a good feeling. And it's easy to find you in a vulnerable state where you're willing, even though you're getting compensated, and over time you realize that in some cases it might be beneficial for you. It might have been a good move for you to be compensated still without working or whatever. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people are angry. They feel rejected. So it's going to be easy to find somebody to say negative stuff or to contribute to a negative article. Yeah, we're going to stick it to them. So trying to give details on things that aren't going to make anything better ain't worth it. And I think Phil should have known better than that. I wouldn't have told him when we knew. When he said, when y'all know, I would have said, well, it's been something that's been brewing over time. I can't tell you specifically, when the conversation started. But it was a decision that was finalized recently. I would have left it at that. By him being specific the way that he did, and the answers that he gave didn't make things any better. I could understand if the end result would have been, oh man, Phil Harrison is a good guy. He was trying to be a good guy, but see how was being portrayed? He was trying to be a good guy by being honest in some ways, and look what's happening. He's made to look like a demon, and from what I feel, because again, the murkiness of how the whole Bethesda piece was reported in the article, he's partially being misquoted. Or what he's saying is likely being taken out of context. And he thought he was being a good guy. Maybe he was emotionally out of his element at that moment because he felt something. He felt bad. But that's where you make the big boy money, baby. and you got to put on the big adult pants or dresses or skirt, whatever it is that you wear. You got to put them on, strap up the laces, and you got to stand firm and you got to be strong. Now, by him giving those two answers, now we're here. Is there a link? That's what we need, Collins. We need a link to that Q&A, but there's not going to be one. Legal and HR, and that's why, and that's the bad thing about this too, which people know that have been released. There's NDAs and waivers and stuff on this. Google can never talk publicly about this. Never. They could never clear this up. That's the bad thing about this. They could never clear this up. That's another reason why you don't get into certain specifics. They could never clear this up. This has legal ramifications because of the NDAs that they had made people sign, that everybody's agreeing to be quiet about this. And of course, the people that are affected aren't going to be quiet because they're angry, but they're going to do it under anonymity. Somebody had said to me, because I had commented, I said, is Jade maybe a source of this information? And they said, no, I don't think it's Jade. And I'm like, well, Jade would never come out and say that she is a source, because those contracts on her compensation would say you better not say anything or you jeopardize your compensation and we can sue you. Those are the stipulations of your your SUP package. Your SUP insurance. A lot of people don't understand this is insurance. When you get compensated after being purged, it's an insurance that the company pays into. And to make sure, and what do insurance companies love to do? They love to find faults that you make in that insurance to cancel it. So they ain't got to pay out. And everybody wins. Well, the insurance company wins. So they'll give you all these stipulations. And if you go out there and you're public about stuff, when whoever handled Google SUP packages would have said, well, hold on. At this level, we'll sign on with you, and this will be the package you get at this price a month. But a stipulation of working with us is if your execs open their mouth, we got a right to pull back the insurance, right? That's what makes it lucrative for the insurance company when these stipulations are added. And it's allowable in the law. It's allowable in the law. Collins says, wait, I'm confused. Now, when did this happen? The SG&E closure happened on February 1st. If that's what you're talking about, Collins. There was an email that went out a week prior to that praising the team for its job. They would have been told to business as usual. They had to do that. But there was a Q&A that happened, I guess, after the general announcement. There was a Q&A that occurred, and in that Q&A, Phil Harrison answered a bunch of questions to the people that were affected, and two questions that came up was, when did y'all know, and why did y'all make this decision? And those are two questions that he answered wrong from a business perspective. Oh, that's when the Q&A happened. The Q&A happened after that. And that's normal. I've been through situations where we do the Q&A right then and there. I'm going to be honest with you. Well, see, no, it's a little bit different because they needed these people to still stay on and work. So what they did is they decided to let this soak on them, and then when they collected themselves the best of their ability to do a Q&A. I don't fault them for that. Normally, when you let people go, they're going the same day, and then you do a Q&A right then and there, and you do it with the other staff that are going to be shocked, because then the inherent knee-jerk response is going to be, are we next? But the Q&A with the people affected is where they messed up. Those two questions were answered erroneously. He says, oh, okay. All right. So that's where we're at. Okay, we only got like 10 minutes, y'all. So here's what I want to do. I want to talk about a couple of articles here. Let's see here if I can find them. Article number 1 is, Jesus, this site got all types of ads and Jesus. All right. So there's this Twinfinite article that said, gee, what the hell? All this. Atlus wants to know if you want Persona 6 and more on PlayStation 5, Stadia, PlayStation 4, Switch, PC, or mobile. Today, Atlus launched this massive survey among its fans to quiz them on what they would like to see in the future from the House of Persona. While the poll is largely similar to the one that launched last year, before there are some key differences. 2 new platforms have been added amongst the possible choices for several options, and those are PlayStation 5 and Google Stadia on top of PlayStation 4, PSVR, and some other ones. Xbox One X is not an option, but it's worth mentioning that this is a survey aimed at Japanese users. And Xbox One was not mentioned in the previous years either. The platform options are available for number sequels of the Persona Shigami Tensei series. On top of that, we got the same options available for different kinds of Persona games, including Persona 6. Let's see here. So, very interesting article. And here's my thoughts on it. The G Million says, I want Persona on everything, damn it. Shout out to G Million. My thoughts on this are, I think it's a promising sign. I think, again, it's more evidence to put in the bucket of, I think Stadia is doing a reallocation. There's a reason why this survey went out there. There's a reason why they added Stadia to the platform. Or the Stadia platform to the list of games that they're asking people about. The platform, from all intents and purposes, are not closing down, or is not closing down its business as usual operations to third-party development. They're still looking to go. Hence why they're even out there as an option. So I think that's a promising sign as far as we're concerned. Again, that's our opinion, that this is out there because it's still business as usual as far as development is concerned. They're doing a survey for a reason. People may argue, oh, well, we don't know what information this survey is about and all that, and that's fine. Let's have the debate. We can point to evidence and we can have the debate. But again, something to put out there in our argument is, why is this even out there? We hear this often, which I think is an honest critique of Stadia. It's like some people are disappointed with Stadia because it's 1,000 different cuts. And that's true. I get that. But it doesn't work in just one direction. If people are curious about what's the state of Stadia, what are they planning to do? Stadia has been the most bold with their roadmap. They actually, before SG&E closed, they're the ones that talked about future years. No other cloud platform has done that. And maybe they decided to scale it back a little bit as far as them jumping out ahead of themselves. But with all that said, there's evidence after evidence after evidence after evidence after evidence, so much evidence that comes out like every other day that proves what they were saying is their legitimate purpose. Is to reshuffle resources, to reestablish the platform. Dustin, I'm looking at your comment right now. Let me see if I can find it. Dustin, you found that, let me see here. You had that, I got one more subject matter. If you can find it for me to post from Grace Yang, I'd appreciate it, good friend. I think you did post it. Dustin Oran, if you can find that. See here. Where the hell, where's the Stadia War Room? Okay. Xcloud Gaming. Okay. But you put something in here from Grace one time, Dustin. If you can find out again, I appreciate that, good buddy. Because Grace, the community manager, also put out a talking point too. In regards to that Stadia, you're going to have your games and all this other stuff. So I find it, again, peculiar to where Amazon can come out and say, if we keep trying, we feel like we can give this a shot when it comes to them having to reboot their efforts from their studios. And that can be taken as golden. But in a blog post, in an interview, community manager tweets from the Stadia official Twitter account. And then all these countless other actions can happen. Various different actions can happen. And all of it is too questionable. But the Amazon CEO can say, if we keep trying, we feel like that if. And that can be taken as golden. I think if you can look at that and not see the bias in that type of perspective, then maybe you can understand why we're making the strides that we're making and ensuring that the Stadia news is completed more evenly. Let us have the debate. Don't try to shape the debate. Let us have the debate. Put the information out there. Contribute to the debate, but don't try to shape it. The post about Grace, Charles, the post where she said, remember when SG&E closed down and she was like, she posted the talking point about, look, we're not going anywhere, guys. I think you posted that somewhere. If you can post that again, that'd be great. All right, last but not least, before I have to go pick up my wife, is an interesting article that I wanted to put up here. Because I know a lot of people, as an ulterior solution to the slow drip of games coming to Stadia, in their opinion, a lot of people were flocking to the Xbox One S in the All Access program. And I had cautioned some people that something you may want to look out for. That there are bottlenecks running through the Xbox One S to where you're only going to get a good year or so out of it in dedicated device gaming. And then it would be considered a streaming box after that. But its streaming box capabilities are going to be hampered without the implementation of Wi-Fi 6. Now, if you plan on having this connected via Ethernet when it becomes a stream box, great. But if you're having this in a place where you can't connect it wired, look out. And here's why: because this is going to become a stream box in a year or so. And if it takes it longer to become a stream box, that's going to be even worse. Metro Exodus developer just gave gamers a big reason to skip the Xbox Series S, according to Tom's guide. When Microsoft revealed the Xbox Series S as a cheaper companion to the X, it seemed like a masterstroke for consumers to experience the next generation of games at a price that was $100 lower than the disc-free PlayStation 5. But this is according to 4A game chief Alexander Shishkastov. He says the RAM is not an issue for us, but GPU performance presents challenges for future titles. The Metro Exodus developer said, our current renderer is designed for high spatial and temporal resolution. It is stochastic by nature. Dropping any of those would require us to do more expensive calculations, dropping performance even further. We have a compromise solution right now, but I'm not satisfied with it yet. Um, and then Tom's guide says you would imagine that other developers are having to grapple with similar compromises. So here's the thing. We can't help the fact that the S is out here. The S was simply just a catalyst to get people in the next generation that normally, for price efficiency purposes, couldn't get in, and whatever. But it's causing more harm than good for the general gaming community. I know individual cases where it's fine. We've had this debate. People called into the commission podcast. It's great for my 9-year-old that wants to play Fruity Chooty, Booty Goody, right? And that's fine. But because it's the lowest common denominator in the development set for the consoles, it's bottlenecking capabilities there. People have said it's been a pain in the ass for years. Developers have said this, that having to develop for this has been a pain. Then they said, oh, the GDU just had to be updated. And as we can tell, the GDUs are still incomplete because the PlayStation 5 is still outdoing the Xbox. Series X, the world's most powerful console, and multiplats. So the GDUs are still not 100% there yet. So my thing is that, hopefully this thing does become a streaming box sooner rather than later. And that way, Microsoft can tell developers, okay, look, as part of the global development kits, or the GDKs, not the GDUs, I'm sorry, as part of the global development kits, don't worry about having to work or include natively the capabilities of the Xbox One S. It's now just a streaming box. Hopefully they do that sooner rather than later. And if you have the Xbox One S for that purpose, because you know it's going to convert to a streaming box, you got it connected via Ethernet because it doesn't have the Wi-Fi 6 capabilities, which is a shame. But secondly, again, I hope they do this sooner rather than later. I can't say this enough, for the simple fact that if they can't, it's going to be a problem. And don't take it from me, take it from the devs. So something to look out for. Here's what I would do for people. I would keep my Xbox One S. And then, because I believe that there are going to be Xbox One S's in the future that are going to include Wi-Fi 6, but to keep costs down for both the X and the S, for whatever reason, they had to omit Wi-Fi 6. So my thing is, if you can't hardwire your connection, or this thing doesn't become a stream box in enough time, hold on to your purchase, keep it as clean as pristine as possible, and trade it in if you got to. But what is going to suck is if you trade it in, if you were part of the All Access program and you trade it in before you've made your final payment. So I would say wait until your final payment is made and trade it in for a Wi-Fi 6 capable unit, or upgrade to an Xbox One X or Series X. Because if this continues, what you're going to see happen is you're going to see that in order for Xbox to keep its promise of the world's most powerful console, if the S continues to bottleneck capabilities, then they're going to have to cut it out. And we've seen where Xbox, they'll cut production on something when need be. They did it with the X. So just some food for thought. Oh, hold on, Victor, you're not a mod. Victor, post that again. My bad, Vic. Post that again, brother. Let me see if I can post that for you too. see here. Let's read this article. It says Google fires. I got to get out of here. Google fires second AI ethics leader. Yeah, see, Google's having a rough year. I made you a mod though, Vic. My bad. I'm Google. That's what I'm saying. Google's having a rough year, or having a rough 12 months, and they got this product that everybody's praising that's not making them any money. No, it's not. If you're talking about as far as usage, Amunar, it's Geforce Now. Geforce Now is I would say is the leading cloud platform as far as usage is concerned. Now we can get into a whole different discussion about is that usage from the paid tiers or from the free tier. Analysts have said that is from the vast majority of that usage is from the free tier, and that presents a problem for the sustainability of the platform. But Geforce Now is clearly the cloud leading platform, not Xcloud. I don't even think Xcloud. I think Xcloud might be dead last. Like Game Pass, its saturation is high. Xcloud saturation is high, but nobody's using it. All these people that talked all this stuff about, Xcloud, this, Xcloud, everywhere you go, you see people posting stuff on Stadia. You see people posting stuff on GFN. You see people posting stuff on Shadow. Hell, there's this new arcade thing that's free. You see all these cloud services. People are posting stuff everywhere. If you look at the engagements online, you see stuff everywhere. You see nothing from Xcloud. Xcloud is dead last in engagements and all that stuff because nobody's using it. You might have usage, I want to say in like Korea or something like that. But when you look at it globally, no. It's all numbers point to it being dead last. GFN's number one. I think it's reasonable to say that Stadia's 2. Third would be probably Shadow, because Amazon's I don't know how many Amazon have put out yet, but I think third would be Shadow, fourth would be Amazon probably. It might be, those two might be swapped depending upon how many invitations Amazon sent, and last is Xcloud. But nice try. All right, with that said, shout out to everybody, including my good friend Amanor. Thank you for this. I am late as hell. I'm going to drop a video later. I'm going to talk a little bit more. I wanted to talk about Outriders too. I'll say this real quick. Yeah, Outriders, great snag from Stadia. This is what we need Stadia to do more often. I'm hopeful that, again, this is a reallocation of of the resources being invested in SG&E to make more things like this happen. And I hope that Stadia continues to get more big ticket titles day and date. I am hopeful that they're building the infrastructure and we will see a Call of Duty here. That will be humongous for the platform, that they're ready for that this year. And I want to see, more big ticket games on here as well. But with that said, we want to thank everybody for joining us. As always, be looking out for our video later today. Hopefully I can get a game stream in too. And with that said, you all have a wonderful gaming day. Peace. Well, hold on, no, Amador. Don't try that crap, bucko. It's my brother Amador. Xcloud is beta too. Right? Isn't Xcloud? Xcloud has been beta since September. Xcloud is still being considered beta. So you messed up there, bucko. All right, y'all. Peace.